Guys, the average American right now is drowning in debt, and I don't see it getting better anytime soon. I'm going to need some coffee for this one, man. Cheers, by the way. Oh, man, nothing hits like a double espresso in the morning. So, yeah, let's talk about the problem of debt in America.
I have $40,000 in credit card debt. 40. So let's talk about it. First of all, that is a statement that I thought I would be taking to my grave. I never thought I would tell another soul. And in fact, until today, I have never told another soul about my struggles with credit card debt because this is not the beginning. If we rewind all the way back to about 19 or 20-year-old Lana, that is when my journey with credit card debt began. I was 19 years old and I was dating a man who was 31, and he did not support me or help me financially in any way, and I was trying to live his lifestyle off my minimum wage job, and I was living outside my means, to be quite frank. I got myself into credit card debt. I stayed in credit card debt until I was about 21, at which point...
Guys, that is a massive problem. In my opinion, if you're, 18, 19, you got to be careful with credit cards, right? I'm not even a big fan of people that age having a credit card. I mean, you can do what you want. Obviously, you got to build credit. I'm a big believer in building credit responsibly, right? But when you're 18, 19, you're bound to make mistakes. And if you're looking at other people's lifestyle that is, that are way ahead of you in terms of life, they're more advanced in their careers, right? In this case, she's dating somebody, or she was when she was 19, that was 31. If you're trying to live a 31-year-old's lifestyle on a 19-year-old's minimum wage, salary, man, you're bound to get into some credit card debt, and it's going to be ugly. So if you're young, guys, please, please, please don't get yourself into credit card debt. It's the worst type of debt you can get into. We're talking rates of 25, 30%. At this point, it's just straight up predatory.
I was able to pay it off over the course of just like really cutting back and being very diligent about making as many extra payments as I could to my debt. And then I got out of it and I was like, oh my gosh, that's the most freeing thing. I'm never doing that again. And then I did.
That's the thing, right? You get out of debt. It's very freeing, no doubt about it. But those credit cards, man, they suck you back in. They can suck you back in if you're not disciplined. And the reality is, guys, most Americans just are not disciplined with their money, with their spending. They don't have a budget. They have no idea what is coming in, what's coming out every month. And with credit cards in the mix, yeah, you're going to do things that you can't afford, that you wouldn't be able to purchase with a debit card. You're going to be like, oh, hey, why not? I'm going to throw it on a credit card. That's a big no-no.
My credit cards got the best of me. To paint the picture, I was a teacher that got my hands on $17K in credit card debt, and I started balling out. These are 2 of 6 credit cards that I maxed out. But I was able to pay off all that debt in 1 year, and this is exactly how I did it. These are the 6 credit cards that I maxed out. I put them in order from largest balance to smallest balance.
Let me stop this right here. This guy is doing a great job, right? Well, not because he maxed out his credit cards. You never want to do that. But once you realize you made a mistake, you maxed out your cards, you gotta make a plan to pay them off. And look, he listed them out from smallest to largest, it looks like, and go ahead and tackle it like that. He's tackling it like that. It looks like he already paid it off. That's a very good way to actually get rid of your credit cards, right? I believe it's called the debt snowball method, smallest to largest. Way to go, man. Let's keep watching.
I started by putting as much money as possible at my smallest card, while simultaneously making minimum payments at the other 5. And because this balance was the smallest, I was able to pay this off really quick. This initial payoff allows you the satisfaction of a quick win, and that's really important. Then I took all that money that I was using to pay off that first one and started rolling that into Capital One. From there, I just kept going. And eventually, I was able to pay off this biggest one in no time. This method is known as the debt snowball, and it was popularized by Dave Ramsey.
Yeah, there you go. Debt snowball. Shout out to Dave Ramsey. I may not agree with everything that Dave Ramsey says, but hey, you got to give credit where credit's due. The guy's a legend. He's been in the space for decades at this point. So yeah, shout out to this guy and Dave Ramsey. that's a very good way to pay off debt. Again, debt snowball method, especially if you're just starting out in your debt payoff journey. You want to get some small wins, bang them out. Very good way to do that.
Why do you have so much debt at 20, dude?
Yeah.
What have you done?
$26,000 is on my car. The rest of it is all credit cards. The biggest chunk of it all really started whenever I was out of a job for about 2 months. I was putting all of the rent, all of the food, everything on just credit cards. I had a decent job. My roommate had a kind of shaky job, and then he didn't have a job. For the first few months, he was getting money from like his parents or family or whatever, trying to make his part, but that's not sustainable. So, I had to start picking up his half. There was a 2-month period where neither of us had a job. So
guys, this is exactly why, oh my God, personal finance 101. You got to have some sort of emergency fund, right? So this guy was out of a job for 2 months, whatever it may be, and he didn't have any money in the bank, I guess, right? He had to put his rent on a credit card, everything on a credit card. And let me tell you guys, if you don't have an emergency fund and you know what hits the fan, right? You're going to be screwed. You have no other choice but to take out a loan, personal loan, throw a bunch of, charges on a credit card, and that's how you dig yourself into a big hole. Now, let's say, for example, you had an emergency fund, right? You had some money stocked away, 5, 10, 15 grand, maybe more, whatever, you had away. I typically recommend 6 months of expenses. So let's say 5 grand a month is your average expenses for that month. $30,000 should be in your emergency fund. So if you had an emergency fund, you'd be fine. You wouldn't have to go into debt. You can actually just take your time, a month or two, find another job, and you'll be golden, right? Emergency funds are so important. Let's keep watching.
And how was that conversation with the roommate when you were taking on all the bills?
we had the same conversation of me just being like, you got to figure out a way. And then there was no way being figured out. So
Did you get fired?
Yes. So I was trying to quit. I wanted to quit, but I didn't want to just like leave them because they were short staffed. We had stuff coming up. So I was like, okay, I'll quit in a month or two or something like that. But then like after a couple weeks, they said that my head wasn't in it anymore. So they just quit.
What was the
They just
job?
fired me. I was a QC.
Yeah, whatever. That's kind of irrelevant, what his job was. But yeah, man, if you're in a roommate situation, that's got to be interesting. If your roommate loses his job, you lose your job, right? You got to figure that out or have something in place, in case that happens, maybe an agreement, between you two. Maybe it doesn't have to be written or anything like that. But, man, that's got to be tough. Moral of the story is have an emergency fund. Anything could happen at any time.
So, my husband and I are $60,000 in debt. Okay.
Part of the problem. You are.
Let me explain how we got here. In June of 2022, we had a good amount of savings and decided that our home that we've been living in for a couple years just needed some maintenance and some upgrades. You can see behind me, we live in like a very normal house, but there were some things like on the outside where our stucco was falling off, so we needed to have that repaired. We had our house painted.
Guys, I guarantee you they could have put that off another year or 2 or 3 years. When you think you need to do, repair on your house, I mean, do you really, or do you want to make it look all great and perfect in the short term when you probably could have gone another year, 2, 3 years? I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. But I feel like you could put that off a little bit. Instead of going into all this credit card debt. Let's keep watching.
We upgraded our bathroom a little bit and also decided to pay off my husband's private student loan because the interest is not great.
So yeah, that's good. I mean, they took their cash and paid off the husband's high interest student loan. That's good. Kudos to that. But I don't know. I'm not a big fan of wiping out all of your savings. And going into another $65K into credit card debt on top of that. Holy smokes, they dug themselves into a hole there.
So we had plenty of savings and we decided to just drain those bad boys. We both had really stable jobs. We would be able to squirrel away some money over time and build back up our savings again. 2 weeks later, unexpectedly, I was laid off from my job. And I'm the breadwinner of our household, so it did not go well. I was unemployed for about 7 months. Thank goodness I had social media to keep us afloat for a little bit, but here's the deal. We had to put a lot of stuff on credit card to be able to keep ourselves afloat.
There you go. What did I say in the last clip? Emergency fund, especially if you're the breadwinner of the family, guys. Holy smokes, it's your job to put money away into an emergency fund if you know you're the breadwinner, because again, you could lose your job like that, especially if you work a corporate job. The biggest lie, and we were all told this growing up, is job security, right? Job security, at least in my opinion, doesn't exist, right? It doesn't exist. You can get dropped like that. You can get fired like that. The good thing, though, is if you're in an industry that, is harder to get into, you need a bunch of skills to get in, you could probably get rehired easily, but that's not the reality for most people. Most people, a lot of people, they might not get rehired for months. And again, it comes back down to having money in your emergency fund just in case hits the fan.
So anything that could go on a credit card went on a credit card. And that allowed my husband's income to pay for our mortgage, our car payments, our daycare, things like that. But everything else went on a credit card. We cut back as much as we could, but there's still a lot of expenses.
Yeah, that's got to be rough. And that dog's adorable, by the way, on a side note there. But yeah, that's got to be rough. A lot of people in America are put in a pinch right now for sure, and they're putting necessary expenses on credit cards, and they're only paying minimum monthly payments. That's when things get ugly, guys.
I have 35 credit cards, and I owe $19,000 in them. $30,000 school loan, which I have not paid, and we take home $60,000. I wanted to pay off some credit cards, but every week it just seems that I'm paying something, like all minimums. It's just living paycheck by paycheck.
Okay, are you ready to endure some pain to get rid of this mess?
It's going to leave us with hardly anything.
Are you ready to endure some pain to get rid of this mess?
I love Dave Ramsey, guys. Like I said, I don't agree with everything he says and what his team preaches, but I absolutely love how blunt, how straightforward he is. I love that. I absolutely love that. People need to, hear it how it is. You got to have somebody tell you how it is, and Dave Ramsey will do exactly that.
Yes, I am.
What about your husband?
Oh, yes, he is.
Okay. All right.
Yes,
and the two of you need to sit down together, go on everydollar.com and do your budget tonight.
Okay.
You can download it to your iPhone or your Android or your desktop. It's free. A check comes in, all the money goes out, and then you're broke and you can't figure out how to go to the grocery store.
Yes, exactly.
You're not living by any kind of plan. This money is owning you. You don't own it.
Yes.
And you got to get the other side of it, and the budget helps you do that.
Yeah, budgeting, guys. You got to have a plan every month. Let's say $5,000 a month is what you can spend. Understand what categories that money's going to go to. So $1,500 in rent. You got car insurance, your car payment. Well, I guess Dave Ramsey wouldn't recommend that, but in reality, most people have a car payment. You got your groceries. You got this, you got that, entertainment, your, eating out budget if you can afford it. Have a budget. Stay within that so you don't go into debt. That's so crucial.
I need everyone to know this about being in your early 20s. You will meet people that are going to Europe every summer, buying new cars, buying new outfits, going to Coachella. And if you are wondering, how can they afford to be living like this? Like, is something wrong with me that I'm not able to spend like that? Just know they aren't spending like that because they're working harder than you, because they're networking better than you, because they're better connected. They're probably not even generationally wealthy. They are just in massive amounts of credit card debt. How much someone spends and the life that they portray on social media is not necessarily reflective of how much money they are really making. Nothing is wrong with you if you're not able to spend like that. In fact, you are way better off in the long run because you are living within your means instead of going into crazy debt to portray a lifestyle that is far above it.
Bingo, Yahtzee, guys. There you go. She said it very well there. So a lot of people just look at social media and they're like, oh my God, they just went to Europe. They just went to Bali. You know, they're in freaking Cancun every other week. And I'm just here in my hometown, you know, doing nothing. What the heck? Am I doing something wrong? And again, she said it right. The reality is many of these people in their early 20s, they either are racking up a bunch of credit card debt to do that, which they'll pay on or they'll pay for massively later in life, or they have daddy's money, right? They have a huge inheritance or something like that. But yeah, don't feel bad if you're, you know, maybe doing a modest vacation once a year, you know, maybe once every other year, and avoiding credit card debt. Don't be, you know, sad about that or, you know, get down on yourself, because in reality, nobody on social media is going to tell you, oh yeah, I'm in Bali or Bali, however the heck you say it, because I put it on a credit card. Nobody's going to say that. And you're going to think, oh, they just paid for the trip in cash, right? But the reality is people have credit cards with $30,000 limits, $20,000 limits, and they crank those suckers up. They max them out. That's the reality, guys. So, yeah, that's a good clip to end off the video on. And really, guys, at this point, you have to realize what we can gain from that is a lot of Americans are going into debt because, number one, they don't have an emergency fund. That's very important. Have money aside just in case you know what hits the fan. And number two, they're going into debt because of looking at other people's lifestyles, trying to mimic that when maybe their income doesn't allow for it, right? And yeah, I mean, you got to avoid the temptations. You got to live within your means. Live on a budget. And yeah, if you do that and you stack up money over the long term every month, you know, you save a little bit, invest some money in the stock market, whatever it may be, you're going to be good. And you're going to be ahead of all these people that are just blowing money on credit cards. You're going to win the race, man. You're going to win the race. And with that being said, cheers, guys. Make sure to subscribe for more content. I'll catch you later.